say it that way, it's like, grace, peace, shalom, okay, you watch, listen, that's what all the rabbinical decrees, you wash your hands, you got to do it 3 times, no, you got to do it 7 times, you got to put your hands this way, then you got to put them this way, you got to pour the water this way. Which shoe do you put on first? They even have a thing about that. I don't think he cares about that. But do put your shoes on. And there is as many traditions, and traditions are not bad, and Yeshua is not against traditions. He's against traditions and customs and rituals that are contrary to the commandments, or instead of, or in place of. The word anti in Greek, where we get anti-Christ, anti-Messiah, does not actually mean against Messiah, it means instead of or in place of. Hasatan, the evil one, he just wants to give us a substitute for what is the truth, for what is the Torah. So he gives them all kinds of things in substitute to replace the commandments. So instead of doing Passover, they'll do something else. And instead of doing Sukkot, they'll do something else. But there's customs and traditions there. And we said in the Torah, you shall not worship me in such ways, you shall not worship me with these things, you shall not learn the ways of the nations. Because those who do that are not being set apart from that and not being consecrated unto Yahweh Elohim. They're still doing the things that Egypt did. How then is there a sanctification process of someone who's doing that? There is not. It's very important. You have a question?
Yes, sir. So how are we supposed to do it? I mean, I'm not in the church anymore, which I'm catching all sorts of slack about that. Oh, you Jews now. Boy, you crazy, man. You're not going there. So how do we do it?
I'm talking about it. I'll explain. Yeah.
Can you clarify on the sanctification part?
Yes.
Can you go into that?
Yeah, a little bit here. Now watch this. Yeshua has prayed, sanctify them by your truth. Your word is truth. The word that's used there, as I said in Greek, is logos. The only written word was the Tanakh. Right? Now, as a Hebrew, when we talk about Torah, because Torah, yes, it's the 5 books of Moses, but Torah is everything that proceeds out of the mouth of Yahweh Elohim, because everything that he says is instruction for rebuke, for training in righteousness, and for teaching, etc. So everything from Genesis 1:1 all the way, it's all Torah. Torah is an instruction. Torah is the 5 books of Moses. The prophets is Torah, because all they did was tell people, make teshuvah, return to the Torah, and obey. And of course the writings, the Psalms, that's also Torah, because it's an instruction of how to walk righteously with Yahweh Elohim, with our Creator. Right? So when we say Torah, it could be the 5 books of Moses, the Torah, or it could be the whole Tanakh. And Yeshua said, sanctify them by your truth. It is the keeping of the commandments that sanctifies us, that is, sets us apart from the spiritual Egypt. Why? Because if we don't do the commandments, the evil one, the adversary, will give us something else to do instead of, which is the spirit of anti-Messiah. So instead of doing Passover, he gives them the customs of Ishtar, Ashtaroth, it's all in the Hebrew. And instead of doing Sukkot, he'll give them Christmas, and so forth and so on. There's no sanctification process when they're doing those things, because they're still in Egypt. Now listen, if someone in Egypt, one of the Israelites in Egypt had said, okay, Moses, I heard what you said, but they didn't apply the blood to the doorpost, would they have been redeemed? Of course not. They heard, and they said, well, I believe Moses, but did they act on it? Did they obey? No, they didn't. Therefore, you can see even there, it's not enough just to say, you must do. It's not enough just to hear it, because in Hebrew, Shema, to hear, means to listen with the intent of the heart, to obey. Yeshua was praying that we would be set apart from the world. Abraham was just passing through. Isaac lived in the land. Abraham and Jacob both went out of the land. They both went down to Egypt. Isaac never left the land. From the moment he was born, Isaac never left the promised land. He stayed in the perfect will of the Father. You ever notice that? He was in the world, but not of it. He was consecrated and set apart, despite all the things that went on around him. And that's what we are to be. It is the keeping of the commandments that sets us apart from the things of the world. We don't keep commandments to obtain salvation or redemption. Elohim did not come to Israel and said, here, I got 613, do these, and when you get them right and perfect, then I'll bring you out, I'll set you free. No, he brought them out and brought them to himself, to Sinai. They were already a redeemed people. Then they were given the commandments. The commandments were given to a redeemed people. The commandments were given to the bride. We're going to talk about what that means.
Give the commandments to the bride to sanctify.
To sanctify her, set her apart. You don't do what you did in Egypt. You don't live the way they lived in Egypt or the way you were living in Egypt, the way they also live in the land where I'm taking you to be the promised land. This is how you are to live with me in relationship, in the marriage. But people are taught, oh, no, you're going back under the law, or you're going back to be a Jew. No, wait a minute, no. I am being sanctified and set apart from all that is in the world and of the world. Because I am part of his true bride. And this is how he has given us instructions to walk with him in righteousness. Husbands, love your wives, just as Messiah also loved the Kehillah, and gave himself for her, that he might sanctify, kadosh, and cleanse her. The word that would be used in Hebrew there is tahor. In Psalm 51, verse 10, David prays, create in me a clean heart, or actually, and renew a right spirit. Renew a right spirit. Chadash, same word as in Jeremiah 31. Renew. Not give him a different spirit. Renew the spirit of obedience that's in him. Right? Left tahor. Clean heart. With the washing of water by the word, that he might present her, the Kehillah, the true Israel, to himself, a glorious Kehillah, not having spot or wrinkle or any such thing, but that she should be sanctified and without blemish. Holy just doesn't make sense. Everyone thinks, well, we're holy, we're the holy ones of Elohim, we're the saints. And it just doesn't really describe it. But sanctified means something much more descriptive. We are being set apart. Therefore, my beloved, this is Paul in Philippians 2:12. Therefore, my beloved, actually, in Hebrew, he would have used the word ahuvi. Means my beloved. That means he's talking about a marriage in this verse here. As you have always obeyed, not just in my presence, but now also in my absence, work out your salvation with fear and trembling. The bride works out her salvation, which is the sanctification process, with fear and trembling. Why? Because many think they're coming out of Egypt, or have come out of Egypt, and they don't go through the sanctification process. And therefore they will not be part of the true bride. That doesn't mean you have to get there all the way. Everyone's a different path. He's looking at a heart. You have to start on the path and work towards it. It's not working towards salvation, it's working out your sanctification. You understand? Mm-hmm. There is no such thing as OSAS, once saved, always saved.
Yes.
Because the true bride is working out her sanctification, working out salvation, the sanctification process. Mm-hmm. That's a sign that she has been set apart from the Egypt and is being consecrated unto her Creator Redeemer, Messiah Yeshua. And so here we have in this verse, Philippians 2:12, obedience and sanctification. Okay? Obedience to the commandments is the sanctification process, as Bear had said. And that is not taught. They're taught, well, just say a prayer, recite these few words, and now you're saved. If you said that prayer, you're saved. No, that's false. Yeah. That's outright false. The scriptures do not teach that. You have it right here. Obedience and sanctification in the same verse. Now may Elohim of peace, Shalom, himself sanctify you completely, and may your whole spirit, soul, and body be preserved blameless at the coming of Yeshua the Messiah, our Master. 1 Thessalonians 5:23. Talking about the sanctification process in the marriage. And the verse I read earlier, do not love the world or the things of the world. If anyone loves the world, the love of the Father is not in him. 1 John 2:15.
No, I asked you something. Can I get a copy of your notes?
Pardon?
Can I get a copy of your notes?
I'm not sure you'd be able to read all of these things. You're going to make a lot of scribbling marks, but I'll prepare a teaching. Yes.
Are you gonna make an audio of this?
I don't know if they can do that off of that. It's
I'm
possible.
trying to do it on this, but I don't think it's working.
Okay, but I think she might be able to do that. We can see if we can do that later.
That'd be cool.
Okay, step 4. First we had selection of the bride, we had the bride price mahar, and then we had kiddushin, sanctification. Step 4 is the betrothal contract is written. This is very important. The betrothal contract is written. The contract between the bridegroom and the bride must be in writing. It's called ketubah. Anyone ever hear of ketubah? Ketubah comes from the Hebrew word kitov, to write. Okay? What it means is what's contained in there. One states the bride price, states the obligations of the bridegroom and the rights of the bride. It's got all the terms and conditions of the contract of the betrothal leading to the marriage. Okay, now, in Genesis 24, we don't see that regarding Rebekah, but I'm sure it was taken care of. Okay, but let's go to Israel and Elohim. Go to Exodus 24. Exodus 24, starting in verse 4. And Moses wrote all the words of Yahweh, and he rose early in the morning and built an altar at the foot of the mountain, and 12 pillars according to the 12 tribes of Israel. Then he sent young men of the children of Israel who offered burnt offerings and sacrificed peace offerings of oxen to Yahweh. And Moses took half of the blood and put it in basins, and half of the blood he sprinkled on the altar. Then he took the book of the covenant, Sefer Habrit, and read in the hearing of the people, and they said, all that Yahweh has said, we will do, and be obedient. That is, we have the writing. The writing is the contract, the betrothal contract. Right? It was put in stone, the 10 Commandments, and all the words that Yahweh spoke was written down. That's Israel's ketubah. You know what that's called? The Torah. The Torah is the ketubah. Ketubah. It's very important. I'm going to share something. Now, Yeshua comes and he says, do not think that I have come to destroy the Torah or the prophets. To destroy means to teach wrongly or incorrectly, or to teach someone else to disobey the commandments. He did not come to destroy, but to fulfill. Doesn't mean to do away with. He came as the prophet like Moses, Deuteronomy 18:15-19. When Yahweh said to Moses, I will raise up a prophet. Yeshua was speaking to Moses. I will raise up unto them a prophet like you who will speak for me, and all his words people must shema, listen and obey. And he took the standard of Torah and raised it to a higher level, to include not just what we do when we are keeping the commandments, statutes, and judgments, but the thoughts and the intents, the motivations of our heart when we do them. He raised it to a higher level. And what is being taught out there in the world is falsehood, because they're teaching either lower the standard or get rid of the standards completely. And then Yeshua said to them, these are the words which I spoke to you while I was still with you, that all things must be fulfilled which were written in the Torah of Moses and the prophets and the writings concerning me. Luke 24:44. Talking about the ketubah. For all the promises of Elohim in Messiah are yes, and in him amen, to the glory of Elohim through us. 2 Corinthians 1:20. Now, since the Torah is the ketubah for Israel, when Yeshua came, follow this. If he did away with the Torah, okay, Yeshua is going to take a bride. The Messiah is going to take a bride. Well, who is that bride? Is it True Israel, who's made up of Ezra, native-born Israelites who believe in him, and Gerim, the non-native-born Israelites who are grafted in? Or is it some other group or entity or whatever called the church? Pardon? True Israel. If it's the church, show